Hey everybody! So, the past couple days in the Bay Area have been rainy, somewhat chilly, and just cloudy in general. And it's starting to have an effect on people here. People are getting sick left and right again, and driving is a little haphazard, but I won't let, oh my gosh, I won't let my own cold or the wet weather dampen my moods, and I'm gonna try to do a good video today. Today's video is actually stemming from looking at some of the previous work I did in the Grand Canyon, specifically the Mather Point sunset pictures, and realizing that I think they're great pictures, but it almost seems as if I kind of broke some of my own rules about what I think determines as a good photograph. So I'm gonna go back, read at those panoramas, because I think they're actually still pretty good. It's just that there's a couple things that bothered me on a second look. And I just wanted to tweak them further so that they seem more like pictures that I would have shot and edited. I think before I was so excited in shooting the pictures and editing the pictures and then sharing them on social media that I kind of like ignored or forgot the things that I usually use to determine whether or not I like a photograph. At least enough to share it with y'all. Okay, so without further ado, we'll go to my big computer and we'll re-edit those panoramas and see what we end up with. All right, talk to you later.
All right, so I am back at my regular computer, and this is one of the panoramas. This is taken before golden hour started from Mather Point. And I actually rather like this photo. You can see here all of these shadows from the various rock formations in the canyon. I actually think they look pretty good. They add a lot of detail and kind of structure and depth to the picture. Let me get rid of all those. And I also really like this kind of dark channel that happens with the deep canyon. One thing I particularly like is on the side here, these people still provide a sense of scale to let you know how big the Grand Canyon actually is. One thing I don't like is this. Whoops. I don't like this lone shadow over here. I'm not even sure what that's a shadow of, and I find that pretty distracting. The other thing is, as much as these shadow structures here are pretty nice, this whole section right here, it almost adds like nothing to the picture. And it's kind of like, well, why is that there? It's just like filler. So for me, one of my one of my guidelines for interesting photographs is basically like fill the frame with things that are interesting. So something, you have to have it in there for a reason, right? So everything else I think did a good job. So the people, the structure here, lots of depth, I think it's pretty good. But in this case here, I think I could probably actually, I could probably cut it off, even like right here, and I think that'd be a much stronger picture. So I think I'm gonna try to go ahead and do that. And I'm realizing as I'm recording that this may be like a work in progress thing, and that's really okay. It could be that after I make these crops and make more edits that I kind of don't like the resulting panorama anyway. And that's fine, don't have to force anything that really isn't there. And as long as I kind of learn from the process and enjoy what I'm doing, I think it'll work out okay. So with that, I'm going to switch over into Lightroom and start making these edits. Alright, I'm in Lightroom now, and this is actually my editing program of choice. You've seen it before, and I've already done all the color correction and stuff from before when I exported it. You can see here. One thing I like about Lightroom is actually it has like it shows my color choices kind of before export. One thing that's bothering me a little bit about Windows 10's Photos app is that it seems to saturate the picture and tweak it, but I remember in previous versions of Windows I disabled that and it seems to have come back and now I can't disable it. Anyway, that's an aside. One thing that I like about Lightroom is you can toggle in the develop module the information, which you can see here. So you can see I actually ended up with like 30,000 by 8,000 for the resolution. So there's a lot of stuff to crop here before I start running into problems. And what's really nice is you can actually zoom in on details and see things that maybe you wouldn't have been able to see otherwise. And this actually works for my kind of photography because I really like these small details. They kind of reward you for paying more attention to the picture and spending more time on it, etc., etc. And what does that mean? Well, if I look over here to these people, you can actually see like a really high amount of detail. You can even see the chain link fence here, but you can see like pretty clearly what people I guess look like. They're not fuzzy, they're not blurry, it's all really sharp. This is a one-to-one crop right now. So let's switch through the toggle for the information, and you can see I shot at f11 on a 75mm kit lens on my Pentax 645Z and 100 ISO 100, so base ISO. Get rid of that information, it's a little distracting, but yeah, so you can see one-to-one, and that's how big this viewing area is compared to the whole rest of the picture. And it's nice, we can, like I said before, we can crop to pretty much our heart's content and get something more interesting. In hindsight, if I had known I would have been disappointed with the field of view provided by the 75, I probably would have used maybe my 120 macro just to get a little bit more zoomed in, and that would actually be a sharper picture. And yeah, so it's not just there that's sharp with the people. One thing that I didn't even notice when I was there, there's a hiking trail here, and where that is in the picture, I'll just leave this out here, it's in an area this big. So yeah, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool. So this hiking trail is actually one thing that I'm going to want to preserve in the final picture, because I think it does, it does reward you for paying attention. All right, with all that said, I think it's time to start cropping. So, like I said before, this whole section I found very distracting over here because it doesn't add anything. I think part of the reason why I included this in the picture to begin with is I really liked all the striations and the small details and layers in the rock here. The problem is that it doesn't really need to be here. Not only because it's distracting from kind of the overall message or impression I'm trying to make with this landscape, where the Grand Canyon is actually quite grand. It doesn't need to be here because by including this part in the background, you can see that you already see tons of the striations and the details and layers. So having this other section over here doesn't add anything unique to the picture and really just serves to distract. So I was cropping a little bit earlier to try to play around, see which things I'd like, which final results I'd like. And while I was looking around, I actually realized that one thing I forgot, and I actually found distracting when I looked at it in this bottom left corner. It's not going to be a straight crop from here over. In the bottom left corner, I don't like these trees here. Especially this little bunch right here, that little bright spot actually I think like really drew my eye away, because it's like, what is that? What am I looking at? So I think I'm actually going to want to crop this section out as well. So the simple thing I did, this is already shot at a 3:1 ratio. So I have locked it to the 3:1, or roughly 3:1. I've locked it to keep the aspect ratio. And really all I'm going to do is take the corner and close it down. I said before I wanted to keep that little peak, or try keeping that little peak and see what happens. So I'm going to stop right there, see what happens. I actually like this. I think it could use a little bit more on the bottom here because it seems like a little prematurely cut off. But it does cut out most of the trees here. These kind of blend in with the rock wall shadow, so I don't think it's as distracting. But I'm going to try to expand a little bit more. Yeah, we'll try that, because this is the kind of, starts getting boring on this north rim here. After that, it really doesn't add anything, so I think this is kind of the limit. So yeah. And the resulting crop is a 22,000 by about 6,000. So it's over 3 to 1 actually. And I think I prefer this one. By removing the extra material on the side and then the bottom, I think it actually helps. It's weird. I wouldn't know how to describe it. It's like, by removing the extra stuff, it helps you draw your attention to these people, which also helps you realize how insignificant like humans are compared to this whole vast landscape. Oops, sorry about that. This whole vast landscape. So yeah, I think I'm actually gonna keep this crop. Pretty happy with it. But yeah, so those are some of my philosophies for taking these pictures. Fill the frame with something interesting. Make sure that everything that is there for a purpose and doesn't distract. And try to make it clear what message you're trying to convey in the picture. So here again, the message I'm trying to convey is that people are super small compared to the grandness of the Grand Canyon. I've removed a lot of the extra landscape that really didn't add anything other than kind of bright spaces on the side. We'll actually look at it again. I removed this whole section over here that all it was just like highlight in the histogram, so it didn't add anything. And I also removed the extraneous layers and striations that also didn't serve to add anything to the picture, because it was repeated over here in a vastly more interesting section of the picture. So yeah, I hope that helps a little bit. I think I might actually do a similar thing with this picture. Here, now that I'm looking back on it, the light here is better, but I think the previous picture, because it's more dramatic, it's more colorful, but I actually think the previous picture was a lot more interesting. So I showed this as, I guess, the highlight of my video before, and in hindsight, I think this picture is kind of boring. It's cool to see. I should have rendered the one-to-one preview beforehand. It's cool to see all of the people in this section right here. Like, it's way more filled in. You can even see like people's faces. But this whole section is in shadow. And this is probably the more interesting part of the canyon, is seeing, or the interesting part about light in the canyon is seeing how it affects what you see in the canyon. So you can see now the white layer of rock, the lighter layer of rock in the north rim, but with this whole dark section here, and even arguably here, it almost seems like this whole section now becomes unnecessary. So if I wanted to recrop this picture or reshoot this picture, I actually probably prefer to reshoot this picture from further west in the canyon, looking down this way, because personally I think more interesting stuff is starting to happen here, because you get all these kind of specular lights playing with the tips and the rims, the edges of the canyon walls, and you still get layers and stuff there. But right now I think this is like there's a picture with a lot of nothing and then a lot of like nice warm golden light. I think a more interesting version of this one would actually remove all the people and end up with, I don't know, maybe something like that. I don't think that's a good picture at all. I think I think this whole section is still unnecessary. But if I crop it further in, oops. If I crop it further in, like that, it doesn't seem complete. It looks like I'm just cutting things off for no reason. So yeah. Always look, I think it's okay to look back at previous pictures that you liked and realize that, your tastes change for whatever reason. So now that I've looked back and made some changes, I actually vastly prefer this picture. So yeah. Let me know if you have any questions, comment, send me an email. Yeah, I'd love to hear what people say, especially if you've been here at the Grand Canyon and you have any pictures that you really like from this place. So yeah. Okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye.